Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Watching Out with Jay and MJ's recap show for The Last of Us, Episode 3, Long, Long Time. I'm Jay.
I'm MJ, and I will applaud.
Yes!
What's the applaud one? Is it yellow?
Yes!
Woo!
Yes!
Yes!
Oh my gosh, I was even thinking about it right up to the point. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to get this so wrong. I'm going to get this so incorrect. Now we just have to act like we've been there before. So next time.
No applaud button next time. Got it.
Yes, next time when we do it the right way next time, we just have to be like, yes, this is how we do things normally. Okay?
You assume you're going to do it the right way next time.
Look, don't put that out there in the ether, loser. Jesus. Did you already say you were MJ?
I did say yes. And for those of you who have not listened before, I am MJ.
I wasn't sure. I didn't know.
I did.
So, hey, people. How's it going?
Good. Was not expecting this episode when we watched on Sunday.
Girl, I can't even, won't even, but I also want to even. Like, this is, it was a lot. But I mean, we're gonna jump in.
You know what the funny is? It was a lot, even though it really wasn't a lot there.
I mean, yeah, I think that's like a theme with this series that I'm learning is like they know how to do. They're doing a lot with like a little.
Well, and that's where you again. I always ask this: did you watch the after credit discussion with the director? Because this was apparently. Oh, go on.
I didn't this time because I didn't want to. I mean, this is going to sound really weird and really kind of weird artsy fartsy for me. But after the episode, I didn't want someone to explain it to me. I wanted to walk away and, think about it myself and have my own thoughts. So I never went back and watched the afters because I didn't want to. I was in the moment. I wanted to live in that moment. Does that make sense? That's weird.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm not going to ruin anything for you. The only thing I was going to say is this is the first big divergence from the video game. Like none of this happened from what they said. They're apparently filling in like this, like when you meet Bill.
Yes.
Yeah, was it like you he had a partner. So because I never knew like the whole story if that was like actually part of the game, but apparently he had a partner, Frank, and or I forget which one's which at this moment, but like he had already passed in the game.
Right, but there was. I mean, I afterwards. I mean, a couple of days after. Well, it's a couple of days. Like I actually waited until like I think Monday night to really kind of say, okay, what was the what was the real story? Like what was it? Because I was waiting. Well. First off, let's. I mean, we're done right. It doesn't matter. We're gonna dive right in. I was waiting for people to be pissed. Like I was waiting for people to be like, "Man, I make up some gay fucking love story." I was waiting for that bullshit. I was waiting for the bigots to rear their ugly heads. Is what I was waiting on. So I was just gonna sit in it, wait, have my moment with this beautiful episode, and then I was like, I'll go figure out what's really happening. And I think in the game they didn't really. They heavily implied that they were partners. And basically what happens is that when Joel and Ellie show up, we could say what happens in the game and then we can go through the episode. What happens when Joel and Ellie shows up, Bill's there, but Frank isn't.
Yeah.
Frank had gone out or gone off or something.
What they said in the after was like that Frank had already passed away. So that's why maybe he wasn't completely right in what he said about the game.
Say what now?
The director of the episode said, like in the game, Frank had already passed away. That they implied he had. Yeah,
he had. But this is where I'm getting to how.
Oh, okay.
Because I read that deep. So basically, Bill they ran and Bill was going to take them somewhere. I guess they'll get a battery, something, whatever, what have you. Bill was going to take Ellie and Joel somewhere. And as they were traveling, they come upon a body that's taken in a tree. And it's Frank.
Oh.
And Frank had hung himself because he'd been bitten and he was infected. And he left a letter for Bill that said basically like, I hate your guts. You're like paranoid and you never want to leave because, infected, blah, 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 blah. And, it actually probably turns out that you were right about the situation or something like that. But they find Frank on their journey, I believe.
Oh, God. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
So I think that's how it happens. But they also don't really talk about. I think I think the way it's insinuated, I don't know if they're insinuating that they're partners. They might say the word partner, but I also think that Ellie finds like gay porn mags
Oh,
at Bill's house or something, which I think kind of leads to like, well, we know Bill's gay, but that's what I didn't read super duper. I didn't get like all the details, but that's what I
okay,
gathered.
okay.
So, but this episode, I was like, we open up on Ellie and Joel, which to me, I was like, remember we were like, it'll be really cool if every episode started with a flashback.
Yes, I was gonna get into that. That
Uh,
this is the one that didn't start with a flashback.
right. So we open up directly to Joel and Ellie post test. They're now, you know,
They're in the
outside of
woods. Yeah,
Boston. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think they said like 3 miles. Like they're out in the woods outside of Boston in the wilderness. They had camped all night. They're just waking up.
yeah,
Ellie's like, I've never been in the woods. More bugs than I thought. Like, so you've never been outside of a safe zone, which is just
yeah. Apparently not.
crazy to me. Like the fact that you don't even like you can see. I'm assuming trees in wilderness from the safe zone, can't you?
I would assume, but that's. I mean, I would assume, but maybe they've never. I don't know.
Eh.
Who knows?
But yeah, so they're waking up.
I mean, even when it's not the apocalypse and you go into like an actual city proper,
Mm-hmm.
like I mean, Boston is in New York, but you go like in New York, like how many trees are you really actually seeing? Depends on where you live. But I get that. This episode really, this little whole opening really showed how much she really doesn't know what anything is.
Well, and the discussion that she starts having with Joel, like as they're walking, because they do a little montage after they get ready, where they're going through some of the back roads and walking their way,
Yeah.
as we know, to like Bill and Frank's, because that's where Tess had to go. But she talks about how did this start, because everything apparently happened in 2003. They walk by a hill where a plane had crashed, and she talks about how, oh, did you ever get up in one of those? And they were talking to
Yes.
Joel, and he explains kind of what was going on, like with planes. And he's like, they're not that cool. And she's like, look, you got to fly in the sky. Suck it up. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we realize like it's kind of easy to forget to not think about that. To not think about it's 2023. It's been 20 years, so she was born after everything had already hit.
Mm-hmm.
She's at this point has an airplane is a history, is a historical item. She's seeing this like this is a book. This is planes are Titanic to her. Like she's
Yes.
never seen a boat that big. She's never seen a plane. She's never ridden on one. Like it's a thing. So I think that's kind of easy to forget. And I like that it was like this subtle reminder of, oh wait, she's young. She doesn't know what any of this stuff is.
Well, and I like that they kind of go back into how did the actual disease and the fungus start spreading, and it really gave confirmation of what we saw in the flashback from the previous episode, that it was in the food supply. Something happened with grain, either something like flour or wheat or something, and that it's was widely distributed across the world, thus infecting multiple and people all along. Because even Ellie asked, like, well, I thought you had to be bitten to get infected. So how did someone get bitten originally? Was it a monkey? And he's like, no, it wasn't a monkey. Do you not know anything?
Yeah. So she's really trying to, she's asking questions, and this is kind of where he knows a little bit, but like, not a ton.
Yeah.
So they continue to kind of make their way through, and then they kind of come across and they're walking through, and this is where he's like, oh, you know what, let's go a different way. And she's kind of like, why? And he's like, there's something kind of horrible up ahead. And she's like, oh, now I want to see it, because she's a
masochist.
No, I think it's kind of like leading to what I think, that her and Joel think that they're badasses.
Well, I think it's also child like naivete a little bit. Like she does, like the world can't hurt me. I'm invincible, because you're young. You don't know.
Right, exactly. And so they walk by, and then they come across like a mass grave.
Mm-hmm.
So there's tons of basically, because it's been 20 years, there's really just bones there. And she's like, well, what the hell happened here? And he was just kind of like, well, probably what happened was they were probably getting escorted to the Boston QZ, but it was too full. So they would just kill people. The military would just kill them,
And
tell them they were going to a QZ, and then mass murder them.
which Ellie follows up with, but why? And Joel's comment is, dead people can't get infected.
So this is where I thought it was weird, because that's the last that we really see of Joel and Ellie for a while, because it kind of, we see them kind of, even kind of a heartbreaking thing was like we see like two pieces of fabric in the pit, and this is where our flashback comes to 2003, and we see a mom wearing one piece of fabric, and we see her with a baby in her arms with the other piece of fabric.
Yeah.
So we know immediately, like, they were murdering babies. So
Oh, they didn't care.
yeah. So this is where it takes the turn, which is a little weird, because my brain was like, oh, they should have opened up with this. Like, why didn't you open up with this? That's what my brain went to immediately, because I was like, why would they put the flashback here? It didn't make any sense. But they didn't stick with this group of people that were being loaded into the truck very long at all.
No, they just they alluded to, here's who's in the grave. That's all you like. They're not going to show you them getting stopped and creating the grave. They're going to show you, like, here's back to like when people didn't know any better and the military just did what they had to do.
Right, and this is where I think that's where I expected it. It's like, yes, this is the fate. These are the people that are in those graves. We're showing you that they, the military was kind of basically evacuating this whole town, going, knocking on doors, checking houses, and making sure they're rounding up everybody in the towns to evacuate. Which I would assume, which the intention was to take people to a QZ, but obviously they had orders of like, hey, if we're too full, no, we're not doing that. So as they're checking, we see someone hiding in a basement waiting for everybody to leave.
Well, and just real quick before we jump into that, I feel like also this was the way that for them to send out to, like, for those infected already who hadn't like come out, like, this is a way for the military to kind of flesh out, or like, flesh them out of their house and take care of some of the ones who already are infected also.
Okay.
Like, round up the healthy, kill the ones that are infected. But yes, you're right. We go now to a basement with someone watching monitors that you see cameras like around this house.
Right. So this is where we're introduced to Bill, who's played by Nick Offerman, who I love.
Oh,
I actually saw one of his comedy shows like 5 or 6 years ago, and he was hilarious. But Nick Offerman playing Bill, who is, if I could say something that's a little like, might be controversial, like, he is your quintessential redneck, like, survivalist weirdo who, is probably, you would have thought was really bigoted and really like whatever. Like, this is like, I had an idea of what this guy was.
Well, yeah. Even like later on, like, and we can talk about it a bit more, but like, even someone when they like meet him, go like, the first question they ask to him is like, "Were you a prepper, like a doomsday prepper?" Because that's the like vibe he gives off.
Yes. So he's like, "No, I'm I am a survivalist."
Exactly.
So when he comes out of his hidden compartment in his basement and realizes everybody's gone, he sets up shop.
Which he does so quickly, and I'm shocked at how efficient he was with this.
Right. So he knew. So he was like, he went to Home Depot. He had his truck that he had. He first went up. He stocked up on gas, and then he went and stocked up on anything he could at Home Depot. And even remarks like when he's at Home Depot in the light squad, he's like, "That's quicker than I expected." Like, he knew what was going to happen. He planned everything. He's getting gas. He's getting oil. He's getting supplies from Home Depot. He starts setting up booby traps like it's the Goonies or some shit.
Like, well, and he goes to the power plant and literally like dismantles a power generator and brings it to his backyard to run all of his electrical work. Which, out of everything he did, and maybe I just missed it, did he ever set up a water filter? I know he had like rain barrels later, which would be his water reserve, and he could keep that. But for like the water they're drinking, or he's cooking with, or that they're taking showers with, did he ever set something up to make sure that that wasn't contaminated? I never saw that. I saw like he had the power, he put the fence up, like he said, the booby traps. There's a couple
I
things
think
I
for
was
me,
missing.
I think for me, they're not going to show every single thing that he did. To me personally, I just assumed it was implied that hey, this guy knows what he's doing and he's prepared.
Well, and
I mean, he set up a what do they call it? Like a in the olden days, they were hanging meat upside down in a dry house or whatever. Like
mhm.
he was doing that shit. So I doubt that he missed like a water filter.
True.
But that's just me.
Well, no, no, and I can just, like I said, there was limited time. They showed like the big things. My only other question before we move on is, if this guy who is a survivalist prepared all this so quickly by going to Home Depot and everything else to get what he needed, would you not believe the army would have done the same thing and already have collected all of these things?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe their thought was like, I mean, we know. Would I believe that? No, because we do know how the army and the government works when they're faced with things that are uncertain.
I mean, true. Ellie did mention it shows, or maybe it was Joel mentioned earlier in the episode. It shows how unprepared the government was for a pandemic.
Exactly. We
Okay.
know this firsthand.
Yes, true.
So no, it is not hard to believe that they didn't understand what the fuck they were doing. And this is back in 2003. That they didn't even have the advances that we have now,
Very true.
allegedly. Um, but so this is where he's just living his own little solitary life. Like it is my 30 something life, and he is just like cooking himself dinner, going out every day, walking the perimeter, catching infected in booby traps and laughing about it, giggling because, I guess he just thinks that's fun. Or, I mean, he's bored, obviously. So he really has just like commandeered this entire town, and it's got cameras set up. He's got gate codes. Like he really is living
Oh,
this
he's
solitary,
electrified the gate.
yeah, like this is like his dream. I feel like. But then, as the days go by, he ends up. I want to say it was a couple of years. Um, Someone falls into one of his booby traps.
Um, I don't know if it had been a couple year jump yet because
It was 4 years.
okay, was it? Because I know the gentleman who
Yes.
like triggers the booby trap mentions he's on his way to Boston. So I figured either it was like fresh and he was going there new. So it had been 4 years. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it was 4 years. And then so that's where Frank or Bill, I guess, sees that it's a real person because obviously he walked in there, and or maybe not. Maybe he just goes up there to say, well, if it's an infected, I can, kill them or what have you. And he realizes that it's a real person,
Yeah,
and
he walks out with a gun, and like the guy in the hole goes, "Hey, I'm infected, or I'm human. I'm not infected." Like announces himself.
yeah. So this is where, just like in every zombie show, there's that hesitation of, do I trust this person? Is this person infected? Which he had a little machine to see that he wasn't infected,
Hmm.
but there's always that question of, do I trust this person? Do I let this person in? Because at this point, I think 4 years later, people are probably really resorting to anything. Like it's probably mad chaos out there. People are probably killing people for no reason. Like it's very chaotic, I would think. So he's thinking, what do I do? But begrudgingly, he's like, okay, I'll let you in, and I'll at least get you some things, and then let you on your way, basically.
Well, and like you said, he like comes up, sees he's not infected, lowers the ladder down, gets him out, and first his first reaction, Bill's first reaction is literally like, "Boston's that way. Start walking." And then Frank kind of, like you said, convinces him to be like, "I haven't eaten in 2 days. Can you spare a meal?" And Bill's, if I give you something, you're gonna tell every hobo you see, and everybody's gonna come knocking. And that's when he's just like, "No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. Like I promise." And then he lets him in, like you said, to okay, you can clean up. I'll give you a meal, and then you can be on your way.
Right. So that's basically what they do. Like he lets him in, he showers, does the whole thing, and then they eat. He's got wine, whatever, and then this is where Frank, sees a piano and starts playing, not half bad, starts playing a Linda Ronstadt song.
Mm-hmm.
And before he even gets too far into it, Bill's like, no, 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 stop, 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 stop. And then he jumps on the piano and has very fluid, like piano skills, which I'm like, look at Bill having layers. He's not just some crazy survivalist Republican. Look at him. He can play piano.
Well,
You know?
and I love the fact that they were like, it was coy back at the beginning, like during dinner, where Frank mentions like, "Oh, you're a man who knows to pair blah 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 wine with rabbit," and he goes, "I know I don't look the type." Or Bill goes, "I know I don't look the type," and Frank's like, "You know what? Maybe you do."
Yeah, exactly. Like you definitely there's definitely some thoughts I have about you
Yes.
first. Uh, so this is where he plays that song, and I can't remember how he does it, but Bill kind of reveals to Frank that he's gay, and Frank's like, "Duh, Linda Ronstadt. Come on, no, not that. I don't know if that's the reason, but he's kind of like, yeah." And this is when they kiss. So this is for me when I'm like, how long is this flashback? I was like, oh, well, this is kind of cute. Like they're just going to show us how they met. This is kind of
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
sweet. And then it continues. Like he says, "Hey, go take a shower." So Bill goes take a shower, and when Bill comes out, Frank is waiting in the bed with him, or in the bed,
Well, and that's where like when he was,
presumably naked.
yes. Well, and when Bill was playing to Frank, and like after he got done, Frank's like, "Who's the girl you were singing about?" And Bill goes, "There's not any girl." Like openly, like I never had one. There's nobody I'm thinking of, and that's kind of when Frank like realizes, oh, because you like men.
Well, Frank knew.
Yes,
That's why he asked. He's like,
he wanted
I'll ask this way.
confirmation.
Also, because you never know, this person could be a crazy self-hating person,
Yes.
and you might be like, "I'm not a fag," some bullshit like that. But I get it. In this point, so yes, they. I think Bill. I don't know if Bill's not a virgin. He's had sex with women, but he's never had sex with men.
Yes.
But obviously, it is a very tender moment, and they make love. And
Well,
then this is where I was like,
it's a tender moment, but Frank like propositions him for like, I can stay a couple more days if I do this right, and Bill's like, yeah, sure, like we'll just see how good it is. 3 years later, I was like, well, must have been pretty good.
right. And this is where I was expecting it to say like present day.
Yeah.
Again, like there were a couple of times where I was expecting a present day to come through, and yes, 3 years later, they're still really isolated. And they're obviously together, and this is where Bill is still running that paranoid kind of thing, and Frank is like, "Dude, can we do something? Like, can we spruce up the town? Can I get a bucket of flowers? Can we have some friends,
Can I
please?"
trim the lawn? Can I make our area presentable?
Right? Can I do something? I mean, I can't just be sitting here all day watching the cameras all day and clean out the booby traps. Like, I need something else to do. That's you. That's your bag.
I love the fact, and they're in a relationship at this point, because literally, as Bill is starting to say what he's going to say, like why he can't, and Frank just goes, "I swear to God, if you say because of resource management one more time, I'm going to shoot myself." I was like, okay, they're in a relationship now for sure.
Yeah, like it was a real fight. Like he storms out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if there were neighbors, the neighbors would have been like, "Ooh, what's going on over there?" Like, that'd have been some tea. Like that'd have been drama for the neighborhood for all of us to speak on.
I love the fact that like even Bill's like, look, because like Frank now drops the bomb on him. He's like, I'm gonna spruce up the house. I'm gonna just paint some of the little boutiques. And then Frank's, like saying everything he's gonna do, and Bill goes, fine, okay, I'll give you what you need. And then drops a little nugget at the very end. Also, we're having a party here. I have some friends that are coming over. And he's like, what friends? There's no one here.
Right. And I can't remember how they so Frank's been talking to Tess on the radio back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finally invites Joel. Like we cut to Joel, like they're on the lawn having dinner outside together.
Well,
which
it's a funny scene in itself, because it's one of the most uncomfortable. Like you can tell Joel and Bill are just like bristled at each other. They're like, I don't like this. This is making me uncomfortable. The sooner you can leave, the sooner I'll be happy.
Right. Bill's got his gun on the table.
Oh yeah, pointed at them.
Frank is like, Frank's like, put that away. Like, can we just have some? Can't we just have it? Can we have nice things? Can't we have nice things? Bill's and Frank's like, you know what, Tess, let's go inside. Let's go kibitz. Like he's like, let's go sit around the fire. Let's have a drink. And Bill's like, wait, where are we going? He's like, we're going inside. Like you can sit out here with your gun if you want to. We're going inside. Have at it. And this is where Joel and Bill basically have a staring contest for like 15 minutes, looking at each other.
And this is the where like I said earlier, Joel's like, well, "What are you, like a doomsday prepper?" And that's where he clarifies like, "I'm a survivalist. I know what I'm doing. I'm making sure things don't happen to worsen my condition."
Right, exactly.
But this is also where Joel kind of presents himself and Tess as like, "We can benefit you. Like, look, let them go have their
Right,
fun. We are connected. We can get you goods. We can get you things you can't get out here. We can get you medicine. That fence over there, looking at it, it's got a year tops. I can get you 10 spools of high aluminum quality fencing tomorrow." Like he's dropping things like, "Oh, I got this for you. I got this. Don't sit here and just shoot me."
right. It's like it's a beneficial relationship. Like you have things that we don't have, and I have things that you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can really be, at this in a world like this, we need people we can count on. And I believe that so that's where it really starts. Like when Joel and Tess leave, Bill's still very uneasy about this whole situation, but we obviously, you know, we know just from understanding that they build a relationship. We know that they do this just from knowing
Mm-hmm.
where Ellie and Joel are heading in the present day, that they continue that they run this together. Like they're obviously gonna form a bond or friendship. Like we even see they cut to this really beautiful moment where Bill or Frank is leading Bill, I have a surprise for you. And Frank traded this is a funny moment too. Frank traded one of Bill's guns to Tess for strawberry seeds, and he grew some strawberries. And Bill looked at him and he was like, "What are the little ones?" Like,
He's like, "Wait,
guns.
which guns? Which one did you trade?"
Yeah, it was one of the little ones. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. And they eat the strawberries, and like these people they're just giggling. He's just like they're so
Well, it's that Nick
like
Offerman,
happy.
like that little like giggle, like the Ron Swanson Nick Offerman
Yeah.
laugh. That like it's like a little
Yeah.
child's laugh.
And then he says, "I was never afraid before you showed up." And if this isn't, I just don't know how to quit you for Brokeback Mountain. I was like, when he said I was never afraid before you showed up, I was like, fuck. No.
Oh, see,
No.
it
no,
was
no.
There was a line later that got me, and we'll talk about it when we get to the like end of this episode. But there was a line like what you're talking about here. That's what I felt like later on in the episode.
But see, what got me, what my brain said, because Tess was saying, take her to Frank's. And I was like, oh no, Bill dies. That was my thought. Because if you remember, she always said, take him to Frank's. I'm pretty sure, at least that's what I thought.
I don't remember. I'll have to go back and watch. Maybe she said Bill and Frank's, but I know she always had Frank's. Like I don't remember the Bill part.
Right, but then I'm like, after watching the episode, I'm like, well, that makes sense because Tess had a bond with Frank.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously she was probably like, Frank this, Frank that, Frank that. But in that moment, I was like, crap.
Well,
so,
and that's where at this point before jumping into what happened next, we can't gloss over like, I guess when Tess and Joel were leaving, obviously Joel and Bill have their little moment back behind, and Joel warns Bill that raiders and people are out in the wilderness and like be prepared. They're gonna come for you. Just make sure you're ready. They're gonna come at night. They're gonna be quiet. So like that's what I thought. Like when you were talking about how she kept saying like go to Frank's, I thought something like that happened.
Oh, okay.
That's where I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. But we cut to obviously raiders pop out in the middle of the night. Bill's already outside shooting at him, and Frank wakes up out of nowhere to go out there. This is where we learn how sophisticated boot traps are. Like he's got, we knew he had electric fences, or we assumed, but he's got blow torches that pop out of nowhere. Like he's roasting these people.
Possible landmines, it seemed like too.
Probably, and he is like. Obviously, these guys, the raiders are still behind the fence, but they shoot and they hit Bill, and this is where Frank, pulls Bill into the house, and Bill's like, Frank, here's where the extra keys are. Here's where the gate codes are. Like here, and he's just like, let me help you, and he's like, leave the electricity on until the fire will get. Like he's really like he's like Bill's a survivalist. Like he's like, look, this is what you need to do. These are the steps you need to take. Like taking emotion out
Exactly.
of it and really trying to say, here's what this is, here's what this is, here's what this is, here's how you're going to survive, basically. As Frank is trying to patch him up.
Well, and he tells him like, call Joel. Joel will protect. Like his first thing,
Right.
because that's where like almost the same thing. He didn't say call Tess, even though Frank had a better relationship with Tess. He's like,
Right.
I understand Joel's the same mentality as me. Joel is that survivalist. He'll take care of you.
Right. Exactly. And then we cut to, I want to say 10 years later, where it seems like it's more present day. And it's just like we just hear Bill, like the name Bill with question marks. And I'm like, oh God, I knew Bill was gonna die. And then
Yes, that's
when it
exactly what I
comes
thought.
up, right. And then when it comes up, it's Frank on the porch in a wheelchair. And he's like, Bill, it's getting cold. So Bill comes out of the house and wheels him inside. So this, I guess we learn, like, Frank has fallen ill with something.
I'm guessing MS. That's my best guess.
Yeah, maybe so. Because I mean, he obviously can't move his legs. He can't walk.
Mm-hmm.
He has like control, but we see him, struggling to really eat, struggling to paint.
When and they
Like,
even mention like what they need is an MRI, which would be like a full body scan to see how like severe and spread this is. So I'm guessing MS
right,
was what I thought.
right. And this is where we see like we see paintings on the wall. We can see where Frank has been painting. We can see where they've really made this house like a home. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
see flat. Like it's just they've really kind of shown us what they've done in the past 10 years, and they've built this life, since Bill got better from being shot. And this is where I started to like really start to like lose it emotionally.
Well, because you text me like you watched it before. I was watching something else, so I didn't actually watch it live. And you text me like I didn't expect this. I'm bawling, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I went in knowing you were crying at a certain point of this episode, which I
Oh
thought
no.
was going to be like
Yeah.
when he got shot in the stomach. And I was like, oh, okay, Bill dies. Like we've definitely become connected. Like that's what I thought you were talking about.
I was like, I was not expecting like this is where I started to really tear up. I was like, no. And but I was like, so I was really trying to figure out like what happens, like is this where Ellie and Joel show up, or I'm like, are we still in the flashback? Like what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. And this is where I think at this point, we see how difficult it is for, Frank. Like Bill is picking him up and putting him in bed and, doing all that, doing everything for him around the house because Frank can't do it. Frank can't paint. He can barely do anything for himself.
Well, and Bill obviously doesn't care. Bill cares deeply for this
Right.
man. He will do whatever it takes to make sure his last days, however few they may be, are the easiest and best he can have.
Right. It's his first love.
Well, first and apparently only, it seems like.
Yeah. So we end up at the next day, like where Frank is really just like, Bill wakes up and Frank has gotten himself, he's sitting in his wheelchair. And he's like, this took me like all night to do. You're
Well,
welcome.
the snarkiness of like, look what I did. It took me all night. By the way, I'm exhausted, just so you know.
Yeah. Like it's, and he's like, why would you do that? And he's like, look, this is going to be the last day. This is my last day. I want us to, go take a walk. I want us to go to the boutique. I'm going to pick you out something that you will wear.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get married. We're going to have dinner, and you're going to crush these pills up and put them in my drink so that I can be done. I can't.
And fall asleep, like, and pass away in your arms which is like when he said that, like, that's what I want. I want to end in your arms.
That was crying again. That was number 2.
Oh,
That was the second time it hit me. And they do just that. He walks them around the town. They go to the boutique. They pick out, clothes for each other. They have a little ceremony with each other. Bill cooks the first dinner that they ate together.
yep.
The first meal.
And pulls out the same
And
bottle of wine because I guess he had a case of it. So he's like, "Look, I even have it from."
exactly,
Oh, just
same bottle of
tears.
wine. And then he says, I think it's time. And he crushes up some pills, puts them in Frank's wine, and Frank guzzles his wine. And then Bill guzzles his. And that's where Frank realizes, wait, you know, what
I
are you doing?
he
Like
the look on his face is like, "Hey, first off, I don't condone this." Second off, he goes, and his concern was there enough for both of us? Like, did you jip me so I can't go?
right, because he'd probably be like, did you sacrifice yourself for me?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, And I think, and Bill's just like, I'm satisfied. Like I have everything that I need. I don't need to go on either. I'm satisfied.
Like pretty much
Which
like you're the reason I was here.
exactly. And I was like, no, really? And they just have like their final moments. He's like, I mean, basically I think that's where it ends, right? We don't see them. Do we see them go into the bedroom or anything?
Yeah, the only thing after they have their like peaceful dinner, they do the, chug the wine glasses. The only thing left is Frank tells Bill, "Take me to bed." And you just see him wheel him down to the end of the hall because they can't go upstairs anymore and turn into the bedroom, close the door. That's the last you see of him.
Right. So I've lost it at this point. Like, I mean, I've got the snot bubbles.
Hmm.
The bubbles. I'm I'm like guttural.
It's
Sobbing
very
at
Romeo
this.
Juliet esque. Like I'm like that true, just like all consuming love of if you go, I go. Like there's nothing for me here if you're not with me.
I mean, Romeo and Juliet was just stupid, but
I understand. Like they're
they were dumb.
they were
But
teenage.
I'm
I
with you.
get that, but yes, it's still that same mentality of like, you know what? Bill openly like just says like, "I'm here because I was here to protect you. Like once I found you, you were my world. I have nothing else. If you're gone, there's no point for me to be alive anymore."
Right. So this is when we finally enter Joel and Ellie back into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Joel obviously knows the security code. He's one of them friends. Hey, you got a security code, you got a set of keys. All right, great. Watch my
Yep.
dog while I'm out.
Yep.
He's one of them friends. And, he immediately knows something's off because he's like, he's looking around like it's really quiet. But I'm like, wouldn't it normally be quiet? But I'm like, I guess it's quieter than it normally is. Like he's like, something's a little off.
Well,
And
I
then
would
they go in.
assume, Frank's either on the front porch or Bill's gardening. Like they would have seen them or like noticed somebody or something out.
Yeah, maybe that, or maybe they would have, seen them coming. I don't know because there's cameras. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, but he's obviously like something's a little weird. And then I think they go. He goes to the house, and is the door open? I don't remember.
It is. Well, it's unlocked.
Okay, and he goes in, and he's like, okay, and he calls out their names and doesn't hear anything, and then he tells Ellie to just sit there, don't move, and she ends up finding a letter with the key
With the car key.
on it. Right.
Uh,
And he comes back and she's like, the letter said to whoever finds this, probably Joel.
which is spot on. I'm sure 100% Bill's personality.
Yeah, exactly. So she starts to read the letter to him.
Well, and that's where like this is the part I was talking about, that this is what choked me up. The letter where it starts like in Bill's words, like he starts talking about, Joel, you and I, we're here to protect people. If we don't have those people that we care about deeply and make sure everything's great for them and make sure they're safe, what's the purpose in our lives? Like that's the part that choked me up. That I was like, oh, that you feel like your whole purpose was just to protect and make this person happy and safe.
Right, and he didn't realize that. Like I think in the letter he specifically says things like, like he was like, I mean, when he was getting all that stuff, to build his town, he was giddy. Like he was like, hell yeah, like fuck everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I was wrong because there was just one person, worth saving.
Yes.
And, we have a job to do. So he's almost echoing in a way what Tess told Joel in the last episode, which was save who you can save.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for a reason. Save who you can save. And it's like it's a theme that apparently is going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be route throughout the rest of the episodes. But when Ellie gets to the part about Tess, he takes the letter, and because it says protect Tess.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is where we're really seeing Joel really kind of start to lose it. He's kind of breaking down because at this point, as far as we know, the only person who's got left of his brother. Like he's lost all of his friends.
Well, we didn't really know if he had like any real emotion towards anybody, but we realize now, like obviously he cared. I don't want to say deeply, but he cared for Tess.
Yeah, and he cares for, and then we can also see that he cared for Bill and Frank as well, because it really is all hitting him at once. Because he goes outside, and you could just see him like he wants to lose it, but he's really trying to still hold it together.
Well, and this is the point, like in the letter, like obviously Bill has a very sentimental moment and kind of connection with Joel of comparing the two of them, who they are personality wise. But he also goes in through and explains, don't come in the bedroom. We locked ourselves in. We opened the window so the house wouldn't smell. Don't like, it'll be a terrible sight. Just leave us where we are. Don't worry about it.
Right.
And that's where like Joel goes outside, like I said, takes his moment, takes the key, goes to the garage to find the truck, and inspect, because he's like, oh, we have a car now. And he opens the hood.
Builds a car battery.
Because as it realizes the car battery is no longer in the truck. So I'm assuming the truck battery is what they were fighting over with the Fireflies. But then he has all the components to build a new one. So Joel just builds a new one.
Right. And then I did see some screenshots. The truck, it looks exactly like the truck in the game.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Which isn't like a hard detail to pull off.
But I appreciate that.
Just so you're, I mean, I know, but I'm just saying. So yeah, I'm assuming they fashion the battery together. They get the car going. Ellie puts in a tape, and it's Linda Ronstadt, and she's like, ew. And Joel's like, nope, this is a good one. And I believe it's the same song they're playing on the piano. And, he has this little remote control. They open the gate, and they drive out. And the shot ends, I think it pulls in through the window, the open bedroom window.
Yeah, so the lens pulls back through the window, but it kind of like pans out so you can see where the truck's driving off in the distance.
Yeah, so now we're on a real road trip.
Yes.
With the car and the music and everything else, which is great. And I think hearing Linda Ronstadt in the car was the first time I've seen Joel, like, since the very first beginning of episode 1, like kind of smile and kind of have a little bit of, a release or a little bit of comfort. We also learned that the radio signals, the 60s, 70s, 80s, that's who they were communicating with. They're communicating with Bill and Frank.
Yeah.
We learned that in this episode too. Well, but go ahead. Sorry.
And part of why I think Joel's laughing is because Ellie's like pushing everything around and looking at all the buttons, and he's just like, is this the first time you've been in a car? She's like, yeah, it's like a spaceship. So first off, it's adorable that she's like a little kid, obviously, in this. But why do you know what a spaceship is and that there's all these buttons if you've never been in a car or a plane? Like, how do you know what a spaceship is? But that's where even like, so like as they're about to pull out, Joe goes like, seatbelt, and she's like, what the hell is a seatbelt? And he's like, reaches over and buckles her up like a little child. He's like realizing like, okay, I have someone to protect. I feel like he's starting to see that, and he's starting to like realize, okay, I can teach her some things. We get along a little better. She's still kind of a child, a little naive, but that's, I think, part of why he's smiling. It's about that, it's kind of like experiencing that childhood wonder for the first time with her too.
And she's starting to kind of grow on him. Yeah, a little bit. And we do, and so that's where the episode ends. We do only see one zombie this whole this whole episode, and it's
Oh,
when
true.
they stop at the gas station, which Joel stows his big gun and gets his other gun that he's been hiding there, and Ellie goes searching around the thing and stumbles upon a zombie that's lying in the rubble, and she does end up stabbing that zombie in the head after she finds some tampons. Pearl, by the way, Tampax Pearl,
Picked
where
over my ass.
she was like, yes, please, with these tampons,
I
girl
mean,
don't need it.
look, she's 14.
So
She about getting ready. She might need it soon.
right, so it was like it was very different from episode 2, seeing all the infected, to this one only seeing one. We saw two. We saw one, and then we saw one that one that Ellie killed, and we see one after getting into Bill and Frank's story that was killed by one of Frank's Bill's booby traps. We see two this whole episode, and that's it.
Which I'm okay with. I'm not gonna say it's like a stark trend like difference, but the fact that you can take this show that we've been loving so far and do something so different and isolate in on just two people and have this just lovely, heart-wrenching story and still have everybody on pins and needles and wanting to watch, even though it's a zombie horror show and not have any zombies in it, just tells how great the show is. Because
Yes,
I just want to
exactly.
I just want to keep coming back. Like after watching, I was like, A, your director is amazing. B, I want to go back and watch Chernobyl now because I hadn't watched that before. But if this is the same quality that Chernobyl's gonna have, I need to go watch that.
See, and for me, it's just like I've always liked Murray Bartlett. I've liked both of these actors.
Yeah.
Like Murray Bartlett was recently in White Lotus season 1. He was in Looking on HBO. Tales of the City. Like Murray Bartlett has been around, and he's gorgeous in my opinion. A gorgeous Aussie. But
which I didn't recognize that was him until afterwards, in the after credits part where he started talking and you heard the Australian accent, then it dawned on me who he was.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think that these two performances are just extraordinary performances. I mean, I think everything about it could not have been, I don't think you could have done it any better. I mean, I have read some comments, and there isn't as much like vitriol that I thought there was. I think some people are like, oh, it would have been cool if Ellie and Bill could have met because that was a really cool part in the game. I think Bill's really only in the game for maybe like 10 minutes, but it's like, I wish that she could have met them and stuff like that. And they say, but the story was told really well. A lot of people are saying that, like, oh, I wish it was more like the game, but this was a beautiful story. And I fully agree that if Murray Bartlett and Nick Offerman don't get all the awards for TV for this one particular episode, I don't know what I would do, because this is going to go down as one of the best episodes of television I think I've ever watched. It was just shy of being like something artistic.
Well, the only thing,
in my opinion,
am I mad Nick Offerman's not going to be in the show anymore? Yes. Am I mad that, like you said, they didn't stick 100% to the game? By all means, no. I believe what they did was spectacular. Now here's the funny part. I'm going to say it's just because I have it up. I'm looking at, actually, before I don't want this to influence. What are you ranking this week?
What'd you say? Sorry, can you say that one more time?
I don't want to have this influence you in your ranking of this show. So I'm going to say this in a second. But what do you rank this episode?
I think it was a 9.5.
Okay.
I think hold on. I think there's two ratings. I think the episode itself to me is a 9.5. It is a near perfect episode to me.
Okay.
I don't know if there was anything else they could have done. I think that no, I think it's a 9.5 regardless, because I'm like lining up with the story. Like, we're really, so far it's really building this story of loss and really kind of breaking Joel down so that he can be that person that's there for Ellie, which is what I'm expecting. So I think that it is in line with the theme of the show, or with how this series is going so far. So I would say a 9.5. This episode to me was that good.
Hands down, I'm for sure giving it a 9. I don't know if I'd go as high as a 9.5, but I'm giving it a 9. Only because it's the third episode. I do want to see kind of like where they're gonna go. But I only asked this so early. I mean, we're getting close to the end anyways, but like I'm looking at the ratings on IMDb, which is a very skewed. I know it's not everybody rates blah blah blah. They gave Infected, the previous episode, a 9.3. They gave this episode an 8.1.
Oh,
They're saying last week's episode was better than this one by a whole point. It's still an 8 on IMDb, but like I said, I feel like this was easily my favorite episode of the season so far, hands down, and deserves completely a 9. And I agree, if these two actors are not nominated and possibly win all the awards for this, something's rigged.
yeah, I don't trust those.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I just wish these two actors, because of how great the characters they built in this episode were going to be in it a little longer. But I'm not mad about what they did.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, to be fair, in the game, these people don't last very long in the show anyway. So we wouldn't have spent a lot of time with them at all. Like, it probably would have been just one episode, and maybe that was the thought. Maybe it's like, if we're really going to spend only one episode with these people, let's make it a good one.
Yeah, and like I said, they've told, like, this was the biggest deviation from the game. Like, this was all, like, none of this was blatantly said. None of this is all what the directors of the video game, or creators of the video game, and the director for the show, this was their interpretation of this story, based on like the few pieces you get from the game of like calling them partners and alluding to this. Like, this is completely their interpretation.
Yeah. Yes. But I fully enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really, really good.
Oh, agree completely.
Well, I think we can stop talking about this sad ass episode, but it really was very good. I'm so excited to see what comes next. I think now we're really going to get in the thick of it. So now I'm like, okay, how is it going to switch? Is it going to switch on us? Like, what's going to happen? So I'm really, really excited.
Well, like I said, let's call it there. You heard it here first, everyone. Nick Offerman should be winning awards this year.
Murray Bartlett as well. Like I don't know, they're not gonna be able to win the single award, but their awards should be given jointly.
Yeah.
I believe they should give 2 awards, because they were both just immaculate in this. I think it was great. So super excited to see what's up next. But sad to say these characters are no longer. But it's fine. We'll move on and we will continue. I will continue to. I thought Murray Bartlett was going to be daddy number 2 in this show, but you know what? I will hang my hat on Pedro Pascal gladly.
Oh, that's what you'll hang on him, your hat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because Murray Bartlett was trying to usurp that daddy crown. Yes, he was. He was coming for it. He knew it was right there in his grasp.
He knew how to work it.
Yes, he did. Does. Continues to. Well, all right, you guys. Well, we will talk to you all next week for a recap episode 4. And don't forget that right now we have an episode, one of our normal episodes reviewing that 90s show. So check that out as well. So we will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to Watch or Not with Jay and MJ.
Interact and give us suggestions on what to watch at watchornotpodcast@gmail.com.
You can follow us on Twitter at watchornot_pod.
And don't forget about Instagram, you guys, at watchornotpod.
Don't forget you can support the pod by joining our Patreon at Watch or Not with Jay and MJ.
And subscribe and leave a review wherever you guys listen to podcasts. Talk to you soon.